Welcome back to another episode of the Scale Smart podcast. I'm your host, Jacob, and also the CEO of NetScale Growth. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by the CEO of KoderLabs, Kazim Qazi. Kazim, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on the podcast.
So, Kazim, kick me off. Tell me a little bit more about your experience as an entrepreneur and what do KoderLabs do?
So KoderLabs, started off in 2013. It was basically around the idea that we wanted to obviously add value to any business that is looking to adopt technology to transform their operations, workings, and maybe at the end of the day optimize their growth. So we are kind of like technology partner for different companies and have grown with that mindset until obviously now, where we started off from 3 employees now to more than 200 employees, and we have an office in Dubai, Dallas, and Karachi. So we are located in different regions, trying to cover pretty much 24-hour time zones. Our focus has always been helping businesses adopt technology where it makes most sense to to optimize their growth and operations.
And tell me a little bit more about your experience that led up to becoming the CEO of the company.
So it's basically a bootstrapped company. We started with 3 founders in 2013 from a very small space, probably like kind of like an apartment. It's similar to garage, and how things have rolled out in different regions where you have certain founders with the mindset of adopting technology for whoever they work with. So we started with that mindset back in 2013. We were working as employees before. Later on, we as software developers, and later on we founded this company. And our focus has always been where we are trying to see if there is any technology that can be adopted for these companies, for different industries where they have a need, and we come in and fulfill that need. So from 2013 to 2016, we tried to figure out what those problem areas are, and making sure the people that we work with get the most value out of our services. Between 2016 and 2019, we wanted to really scale that into more of different regions, especially United States, where we are not just doing development, we are also focusing on marketing and sales, and trying to reach out to more audiences. But we are working more towards digital presence, and not just the technology adoption. So it was more towards branding in these 3 years. 2019, and through COVID, there was some downtime. Past 2021, 2022. COVID was really dialing down. We were able to transform those businesses where we were just working as digital slash branding partners into more of their technology partners, where we would leverage different, if you may, platforms and technologies to really push their growth and their business automations. And especially at this point, we are not just software developers, we are more towards helping them adopt AI as well, to see if they can actually get more out of their operations and their employees.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been more than
go on, carry on.
No, so it's been more than 11 years, and from 3 to around 200 plus employees. Been an interesting journey.
Yeah, amazing. So from a team of 3 to essentially global presence, what were the pivotal challenges you faced in scaling KoderLabs, and how did you overcome them?
I think the biggest challenge that we have faced is trying to scale before we have figured out our expertise. And it happens with a lot of startups where they are yet to find their true strengths. And to be honest, I think as an entrepreneur, you should really focus on finding those key strong areas before you really scale. So that has been our challenge number one, where we got some lucky incidents, if you may, where we had good incomes coming in, but those were one-off things. Based on those incidents, we ended up scaling business, where we were like, we should have really focused on cracking the recipe before really pushing towards scaling. So I think that has been our challenge, especially during, before COVID and during after 2016 to 2019. It has really pushed us to think more about if we are doing justice to the people we are offering our services. Once that is sorted, I think any company can really scale really fast, and that has happened with us as well, where we sorted our strengths. We were able to partner up with companies who are able to augment our weaknesses. We have really taken off. So I think if you ask our challenge number one, that would be it, where you have to have solid control on your strengths and be able to leverage it to really drive the value. It makes sense.
In a saturated field of custom software development, what strategies have you used at KoderLabs to differentiate yourself and always stay ahead?
What I would say, and that really defines us, is not just focus on completing your project, but being retrospective and reflecting to what value you are able to drive when you are working for anyone. So a lot of times what happens is, you get certain project or there's a demand for certain resources, and they just keep doing certain, tasks and jobs. At the end of the day, in a bigger picture, if it's not helping the other partner or customer receive that value and just be continuously paying you for whatever you do, it's a lost cause. It just gives you some leverage for a short period of time, but at the end of the day, it's pretty much waste of time. I think for us, the biggest differentiator is differentiating between how much you're working versus what value you're producing for our customers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And I think what a lot of companies try and do now is they always try and chase the next thing instead of actually focusing on their craft and making sure
Yeah,
that what they actually are doing is essentially what they're doing needs to make sure it aligns with who they're targeting. And a lot of companies are like AI, for example, technology. We need to make sure we're constantly adapting and staying ahead. But if you've not got your offer dialed in, then you're not gonna get the clients anyway. So
yeah, exactly.
I think a lot of
No, you're absolutely right. Sometimes what we do is we end up being so excited about the technology, but that we essentially lose the sight of the problem that we are solving, and you just throw too many things. It's happening with AI, to be honest with you as well, where you go with AI first and then try to think about the problems that you're going to solve. Instead, what you should do is really understand the problem before you do anything with any technology. Let alone AI. And to be honest with you, with AI, there are a lot of other challenges that come on board, because at the end of the day, under the hood, it's data that the models are getting trained on, and that data comes with a lot of responsibility. It is more becoming more challenging and requires a lot more responsibility from whoever is implementing these technologies on your problem. First of all, they have to have clear understanding what problem they are solving. Secondly, they should be able to control the data that gets exposed to those models, and at the end of the day, those models are exposing that data to the audience that they're serving. So it comes with a lot more responsibility, and you have to be very careful in choosing the vendor that's helping you implement those or adopt those technologies.
And on the topic of AI, right, given your expertise in AI solutions, how do you foresee AI transforming the custom software development industry?
I think a lot of the work that we were habitual of doing and repeating on a daily basis is going to be replaced. And it's really like a wave where, if you remember, people used to make things and crafts through hands, and then industrial revolution came in, everything was replaced. People who used to work with their hands and making certain things, they really took pride in doing them with hands. But at the end of the day, the time doesn't stop for anyone. So whoever embraced that period where they were able to automate those crafts with machinery were able to get ahead, and there was a huge difference in the output of the newly developed companies or industries who were making those products. Same's gonna happen, I think, with AI. If you continue to hammer down on things that are can be repeated, you have to think about how can they be automated through AI. And I think one of the biggest change that's going to happen is people who are creative and able to think about the problems are going to stay ahead, because at the end of the day,
Mm.
if you've figured out the problem, it's just a matter of understanding certain tools to automate it through AI. And to be
Mm.
honest with you, some of the industry leaders are going to come up front. I mean, if you remember at the start of 1990s and 2000s, Google, Facebook, and all these bigger giants were coming up, and most of them were led by college dropouts. In my opinion, at this point, the companies who are going to really take off are going to be led by PhD holders and people who are really educated in their own domains. Because if you have good knowledge of those domains and those niches, you can leverage that information and that understanding of those industry problems and really work with AI to implement those solutions. So in a way, you're replacing the developers who are just doing repeated tasks, and you would need product owners and creative minds to help implement those solutions. So before, it was college dropouts who were really driving tech industry, in my opinion, PhD holders and really, good at what they have learned kind of guys leading the charge from now on.
And looking over the next year or so, what are some of the goals you've got with the company at KoderLabs?
We feel like it is important to really push the value from our existing teams, because we see that they can leverage these technologies to drive their value. So in our opinion, we're not going to really look for push too much on increasing the foot count and more towards multiplying their value. And I think using the recent advancements with AI especially, you can really multiply your outcomes by 3 to 5x. I mean, just within a year, you can do that. So, in a way, what I'm saying is if I have 200 employees, that is driving, let's say, X value for our customers, they are able to multiply it by 3 to 5x within 2 to 3 years if they are able to leverage AI, be really creative, and have time to spend on their own well being so that they can really push that creativity and leverage AI. It makes sense. And I think it's going to happen with pretty much all the technology companies.
And if people wanted to reach out, Kazim, and find out a little bit more about what you're up to and or what's KoderLabs up to, where's the best place for them to do that?
I would say my email address or LinkedIn is the best place to reach out to me, and I'm really happy to, collaborate and give my input on whatever problems they're facing.
Amazing. Well, Kazim, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been great having you on, and thank you for sharing your insights and your experience.
Likewise, thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Amazing. Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.